Is that recording?
Yes.
Brilliant, thank you. My name's Claire Hedin, and this is actually a talk that's... I've been watching energy all my life, mostly because it's quite strange the way we behave with it as humans. And I've always found it a lot easier to relate to the nature energy, which has an order to it that it makes sense. There's no cognitive dissonance. There's no difference between what it's saying and what it's doing. But as humans, we're so complex and we do so many things that we might call games in terms of how we relate to each other and how we relate to our environment, that I've decided that it's time to talk about it because I happen to find it interesting. And as far as our evolution goes, I think if we don't have a greater awareness of ourselves as evolution, as the evolutionary process, then we're always going to be on the side of the stream, kind of watching it and possibly even just sort of complaining about how things go in our lives and not realising that we're it and we've got everything we need in a certain sense to have a really dynamic life, which would look different for everybody. It doesn't necessarily mean you have fireworks all day. You know, it could be a dynamic life for you might be sitting reading and being content. For someone else it might be doing massive global change work. So it all matters and it all contributes. So I don't really know if we'll feel like these slides are in order as such, but they're kind of just to stimulate my thinking. So I'm calling it dynamic emergence because life is dynamic, we're dynamic, and anything that's alive is becoming, it's happening all the time. So there's a thing that some of us will be more familiar with than others, to do with a feeling that something big is happening. So, you know, you might just be going through a day where everything's normal. What's that?
Get off China full screen.
Ah. We could take the projector back a bit.
It's not the projector. Go and grab film. Just carry on for a second.
Okay. So the feeling that, you know how sometimes you feel like your life might be a bit mundane and you're wondering what happened, how come I got off the boat? I don't recall getting off the boat of my own life. And then you might bump into somebody and there'll be a feeling that occurs where you get that kind of twinkly feeling inside yourself. And you kind of get that cheeky little smile that might be all to yourself that goes, something's happening here. And we can see it on a more larger, visible level, like with things like the Occupy movement, where we know something's happening. And even though it might look like it goes into retreat, there's still something happening and we become aware of it. So we have to ask, what creates that feeling? Thank you. Oh, you can't actually. Hello. Shall I just keep going?
Yeah, just keep going, Claire.
Okay. So because this is the Venus love experience, I've just got to throw this question in, and I'm not going to answer it, but just, it's like questions are really important. I think Lewis Carroll said this. It's not the questions themselves, it's not the answers, it's the questions that help us to engage with life in a bigger way, in a more magical way. So I'm considering love not as the emotion, not as that falling in love thing between people where all sorts of stuff gets fired up and fired off and can go really hazardously wrong at times, but more the idea of love as a choice of behaviour, a choice of how to be present. So I'm going to touch on this a tiny bit, although not actually that one. If you can see what I can see, I can talk about that.
You're doing well, carry on.
We can see it better now.
You can tell I'm a performer, right? I'm a musician by nature. So I'm used to all sorts of hideous things. At least this is a friendly environment, which is a big plus.
We're feeling the vibe anyway without the slides. So.
Okay. So I used to teach a class, I think it's used to, because I haven't been asked back this year, at a university in San Francisco on creativity and innovation. And if anyone can help with the music next door, again, no, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thanks, Sally. And one of the things we talk about with creativity, because the title of this is about consciousness and the creative collective, so it's understanding that we're creative, and it's just visiting with that again. And part of creativity is completely undefinable. But then we can also look at it in a way that we could actually consider it definable. And it's all these intelligences. So they have their sort of academic names. You know, we all know rational intelligence and sensorial, where you can kind of feel something with your body, like heat, for instance, when you burn yourself. Digital zoom, that's another intelligence. And getting really big. This is all about getting big.
Right, I'll go away, you can see.
Thank you.
But it is cut off, I'm afraid.
Motivation, what motivates us? Associative, relating things. So this is true here in this work to fix this problem. Can it work over here to fix this problem? And basic patterns, that's the one where our brain just looks to see what the deal is so that the rest of us can now relax and enjoy ourselves. So it looks for danger, basically. But I feel like there are two missing in sort of the academic conversation, which tends to translate into the global conversation. And, is everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I'll leave you to.
So, one of the truths that I feel we need to get, especially people who work in corporations or mining, anything to do with, well, it's all to do with our active relationship to the earth, but anything that actually makes things from the earth, is to consider where our intelligence comes from, because we kind of assume we have it and we assume we're doing a good job with it. I'm not saying we all do, but generally speaking there isn't much conversation apart from in sort of perhaps dusty old philosophy rooms about intelligence. But our intelligence is our practical tools, not just to eating and non-violence, but also to the magical realms and how to get there, how to become alive in a way that we couldn't possibly imagine giving up our life unless it was in a greater service of something. And so just considering how to nurture our intelligence. And again, I'm not going to necessarily answer everything I'm saying. I just want to stir the pot, but I will answer any questions to my ability in a bit. So I'm a big fan of exploring communication, because to me communication is this extraordinary gift that we have, and there's the element of words where we can communicate data in a way that we might call cognitive, like our intelligence, our rational intelligence can take in information, like I'm saying, my name's Claire Hedin, so I've just communicated something. But what you just pointed out was that I'm also communicating energetically. So even if I didn't have a script, which I don't exactly have a script, there's something about who I am and the trajectory of my entire history and the entire history of all my ancestors and everything I've come into contact with, knowingly or unknowingly, that makes me be here as this person. And I'm communicating all of that, and some of it I'll be conscious of and be happy to share, some of it I'll be conscious of and trying to hide because I might think people won't like it, and then there's some of it I've just got no idea it's there and it's just beacon out anyway. And we come across that in others. That's why others are helpful, because we get to see ourselves from the outside. So if someone does something that feels painful to us, maybe they've been spiteful, it's like we can look at that and it's like, okay, that's what that's like, and then if we empathise, then we know that that's when I'm feeling a certain way and I speak like that, that's actually how it feels to receive it. So our communication it's an essential complexity to how we build anything, to how we exist. And it goes beyond these particular visible dimensions, and it goes beyond the oral dimensions. The reason I touch on the oppositional or co-creative is things like there's a game you can play in partners where one person talks, the other person's job is to say yes, like to just say yes and to keep building on it. And then you switch, and the second thing you do is you go yes but. So you say yes to what the person's saying, and then you go but, and then you do I don't think so, no. And